Hey, folks. Before we get to the episode, I want to invite you to this month's International Directors Meetup, our monthly gathering of directors and theater makers from around the world. It's a space to share experiences, trade advice, and find support in what can often be a pretty isolating role. You can come and go as you need, drop in late, leave early, whatever fits your schedule. It's simply a chance to set aside time each month to sit alongside others who understand the work. For dates, times, and details, head to boardofdirectors.world and pull up a chair at the table. Join the board. From the first moment I met Acadia Barrengos, I could sense this spark, that mix of curiosity and courage that only exists in someone who's right at the beginning of something big. She's early in her career, yes, but she's already asking the right questions. You can feel that she's not chasing a formula. She's building a way of being, the kind of artist who wants to make meaning, not just make work. And honestly, I can't imagine what it's like to be starting out right now. It's such a confusing, terrifying, beautiful mess of a world. And to step into it with a vision, to risk yourself in rehearsal rooms, to try to lead with empathy, that takes guts. So when I say I'm proud of her, I mean it in the way that you feel proud of someone you barely know but want to protect and also learn from. She's got that rare mix, bravery and trepidation sitting right next to each other. And I think you'll hear that in this conversation. Acadia. So you're here at UNCSA right now directing the May. And for those who haven't seen your work, how would you describe what draws you to a project like this? I'm thinking like Le Belle Soeur and the May. These are not well-known, well-developed, like everybody knows these chestnuts plays. These are hard, obscure plays. What draws you to this work?
Yeah, totally. I feel like I have stumbled upon both of them almost. I do feel like they came to find me, and I'm still actively kind of in pursuit of, okay, what is it about me and this play and our relationship that is requiring that you coming to find me? So it's a question that I'm still very much in pursuit of as well. But I think that there are a lot of parallels that I'm finding. Like both of these writers are really inspired by Greek work, which has kind of been a recent like, oh, that's interesting. But I often think about the content that I'm drawn to as a communion of kind of our everyday pedestrian human behavior and myth and transcendental myth and like how those were in communion. And also just like gross women who are trying their fucking best. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I kind of have an aversion to like women being represented as pretty and always PC and loving and I'd much rather we get really, really ugly really, really fast. So I think that commonality is a big push for me, for sure.
Are you finding like, I mean, this is purely from an observational point of view of being here, that, you know, you were in this weird position last year of having lost a play that you really put a lot of work into and like, okay, I'll take this play that I've never heard of. But there's something in that that's like, there's a real niche that you could be filling with like problematic, obscure, lost plays full of great pathos and amazing ensemble work and the rhythm. Is that something like, is that just like, oh, that's something that I've stumbled onto here? Or is that something like in your career, you're going to look for those kind of things? Like I have a problem play. Who am I going to call up? Acadia.
Oh, I love that. I feel like that would be such an opportunity and a gift. And I do find a real thrill in the like, how are we going to make this work? And yeah, when that surprised us as like part of a process, not just a theatrical artistic question, but like, how are we going to turn this as a group of 20 people
Yeah,
working
yeah,
on this? It's terrifying, but it was so thrilling, and there was always something to be done, and it was really clear, I think, what that next step was at every turn, which made it a real joyride as much as a kind of crazy death drop roller coaster. Um, but yeah, I think there's a real excitement in that to me of like, yeah, how can we solve this? And I think it takes us really then knowing what the problems are, and that can sometimes be surprising. So I've been thinking about that a lot too, how a lot of problems like to disguise themselves. I think especially in these like
yeah.
niche corners of obscure like there's a reason sometimes that people
You're right.
don't.
There's a reason we've lost some of these plays for a good reason. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but I think it does feel, I love the way that you said that too, like these lost plays in canon, and I think both of these plays as well are really meaningful and important in the cultures and countries that they stem from. And there's the lostness is that the US isn't producing them too. And that's kind of super interesting to me because I feel like there's a reason then content wise that companies or theaters in the States, and maybe it's just as simple as like, well, we don't know that there's an audience for that, but I think there's an inherent bias in that always, right? And yeah, so that's really interesting to me, and I for a while um, thought that I have a real pull towards like lost histories content wise. I was like, oh, that's something I'm really, really, really curious about. And I think that that's turning into, as you said, lost plays, which is really a kind of cool evolution to clock. Yeah.
I mean, if you could corner that market, I mean, because I'm infinitely fascinated by, I know what I do really, really well, and I know what I don't do really, really well. And I do Shakespeare, chestnuts, and devised pieces. I'm not great working with a playwright in the room, like on a new play, and really delving and digging deep into that. And I'm not great at these plays that don't have a history of answers readily available. So that's just fascinating, that seeing how your brain is fascinated by that, whereas I'm just scared by it. So
Oh my gosh, but Shakespeare terrifies me. Like there's nothing
really,
that's scary to me. So that's
really,
really
oh, I could live there every day, all day. That's really interesting. Um,
yeah.
so do you remember what first made you feel at home in a rehearsal room?
Mm. Oh wow, that's such a great question. Um, yeah, I think there were like a couple phases of it as like the rehearsal room as an entity kind of keeps changing for me. I think like, um, but the first time that I kind of found that within myself, where I was like, oh, I could do this. I could create, and which allowed me to then like enter a room, um, was actually through choreography. And yeah, it was a project I did in high school. We like didn't have this is so obscure, but we didn't have like testing. Like that wasn't I went to farm school and um and so instead of kind of big tests that we would take at the end of every semester, we had something called project week where you had to take a couple elements of the course curriculum you had been taking, which could be your arts classes. It could be we had arts as academic classes. So there was a lot of wiggle room there. And combine them and create sort of a project for yourself. And I ended up kind of over this series of 2 project weeks, I think, taking um, this collection of poems that I had written in response to a couple staples of feminist literature. And I decided I was going to take the poem. So talk about adaptation. I was like, I read the book, I'm going to write the poem. And then after I write the poem, I'm going to turn that into a dance piece. Okay.
Right. Yep.
We're like, sure. But it was in teching the dance pieces where I was like, this didn't exist a
Mm,
few weeks ago.
mhm.
Like the source material was there. And but this response, I'm like, oh, okay, this is really interesting, because it's a very, stretched out relationship to text, when I think about it now. Um, and then I think it was at school, in the first time I was leading a really big rehearsal room, that we were using a lot of viewpoints and kind of open improvisation as table work in my thesis process, and that felt really scary. Like, I hadn't seen people rehearse a published play with kind of what I at that point was thinking of a more devised process,
Mm,
or generative tool versus
yeah.
a table work tool, and so that both was like, is this allowed? but but at the same time, really felt like I could do this in a way that feels like home to me, and that very much consistently feels like what is home is when we can find the dynamics of the play and the energy of the play, using the play, but actually outside of the text for that it belongs to the people who are in the room creating it, for those moments of time, um, and that getting to witness that power always feels like, okay, yeah, we can do this. We can do this.
Did you start as an actor? Like most people get into the theater, they do it for a little bit and then go, I'm stronger over here or over there. Is that how it started
Yeah.
for you as well?
Yes, in musical theater, no less. Um, I was a Broadway baby on the farm. Uh,
Wait, okay, okay. So you said farm before, and I just kind of let that slide. What? What?
like dropping like farm Adam, farm Adam,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what? Farm school?
farm school,
You're
farm
from
schools.
New Hampshire, Vermont? Where are you from?
Yeah, yeah. I was born in
Okay.
New York. We kind of floated around New England. And when I was just about 13, we landed on this farm school in southeastern Vermont. Both my parents are educators and in secondary education. And yes, so we lived, and I went to the Putney School, and they work there, which is an awesome place, but happens to also
Be a
be
farm.
on a farm.
Yeah.
And so part of the community investment and values, is that every student works a job that is furthering the community's ability to run itself, their
Very
entire
cool.
duration at school.
Yeah.
And one of those that you have to complete is working in the barn. Um, yeah, so we were up at 5:30 milking cows.
That's awesome. I'm sorry. That's awesome. I like there's a part of me that's just like, yeah, that explains a lot about who you are, who I've met, and yeah, totally makes a lot of sense now. Okay.
Yeah. But it was really cool because we got to, like, learn genetics through cow breeding. Like, our science classes were like and it's like, and then you take your hand and you shove it.
Wow.
Yeah, really crazy.
That's what American students are missing. That's what it is. Yeah, you wanna know where your food comes from? There you go. Okay, yeah.
It should happen. Yeah,
And
yeah.
yet, on this farm, they still had theater.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I kinda, like, secret agented my way into the youth theater and community theater in the next town over as well, so I was kind of playing for both teams a little bit there. Um, but yeah, so I was definitely actor performer first, and completely obsessed with musical theater, and didn't really come to play. I maybe was in like 2 before college. Um, but I had done like 25 shows. Like, I was
Wow.
very, dance classes every day, voice lessons for years and years. Like, I was, yeah, took it very seriously. But I think that when we talk about rhythm and ensemble, which do feel like really, really central to my practice, and the type of work that I'm trying to make, it feels like it comes from there for sure.
So, was it the choreography piece that, like, solidified in your mind, "Oh, I'm a director? That's what I wanna do. That's what I wanna go to college for? That's where I'm heading?"
Yeah, kind of, kind of.
Wow.
There's the other obscure piece of this is that I got there, yes, for sure, via the choreography. It was like teching the piece where I was like, oh, and there's this character information of like light that I get to be a part of, like how the
Yeah.
whole thing is made. That was really exciting. And then my journey kind of from performing to directing also happened to be bridged by I had developed like pre-nodules.
Mm.
So I got pulled out of the school musicale when
There
I was
goes your career.
exactly. I was such a fucking drama queen about it. Um, but yeah, so I was put on vocal rest for 2 months. I wasn't able to speak or sing, which at 16
Yeah.
was kind of a crazy experience. But I got really into science. Like I was taking a feminist perspectives in literature course and molecular genetics at the time that my voice was taken from me. Um, and I've always, even from very, very young, like 2 or 3, been obsessed with pregnancy and childbirth. Obsessed, like won't shut up asking my mom questions like, how does this happen? She was like, I don't want to talk about this with you for a while.
Ready for that conversation yet?
Not ready. And you know what? We did have it too young. We've both talked about it since we were like, but like she didn't know what to do with me. Like I was so, just enraptured by this magic. And so I was like, well, my musical theater career is over. I'm going to deliver babies. I'm going to become an OBGYN. So there was also this whole like gynecological journey that I took that landed me
At drama
in
school.
directing because I
Because you're giving birth to babies every single day.
that
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of does.
It does. It does. I really think it does. And I do think of directing as midwifery completely. Like I do, the spectral and the scientific and the spiritual are all kind of together. And that's what is creating a child, a product. And I believe in that full-heartedly. But yeah, there was I got into like Carnegie Mellon's summer musical theater program. And I was like, fine, I guess I'll give it one more go. And took a directing class there. And I was like, oh, the doctor thing is totally this. Like, this is the same. I want to support people creating things and kind of doula new things into the world. And so I ended up applying, I think, like half to pre-med programs and half to directing programs. And I was like, I'll let the universe decide. And the universe was like, you are not getting into that delivery room, babe. So, so we ended up at theater school.
There's an alternate universe somewhere where you're delivering babies right now and humming a musical theater tune, a show tune in your head.
Yes, yeah. I feel like I probably shouldn't share this, but my dad was really excited about my musical theater gynecology practice called the Singing Vulva. I don't know why the title, like the name of the company was really clear to him, but he was like, this is what you must do. And I didn't see them as like that literally joy. I was like, Dad, I think it's a metaphor. And he's like, no, you'll sing them into the world. Yeah.
So what does it feel like to disappoint your dad with not doing that? Yeah. Sorry, Dad. Sorry. I'm not living your dream of me,
Exactly. No, but he was very much the reason that theater was a part of my life as an audience member and a performer. So it was a little bit like, sorry, dude, but he's okay. He's okay.
That's great. I mean, we all have our own stories with our parents of like, were they supportive? Were they not? Obviously, They want us all to be successful, well-producing citizens in the country. But like, I love meeting somebody else who also was just like, yeah, I would have disappointed them if I had not done the thing.
Yeah.
So, okay, you've choreographed some things. You've seen the magic of what it means. You've married the midwifery to the directing. You come in to drama school in a directing program, taking acting classes still. So you can still scratch that itch a little bit. But what was it? I mean, somewhere along the line, I'm sure it was like, oh, this is it. This is the career. Like, what was it, or when did you know that you were compelled Like, what was the compulsion to direct? You've talked a little bit about it with the midwifery, but like, if whether you're going to have children or not, like every single time you're giving birth to a play, you're putting something out there in the world. So like, what is that compulsion that you're wanting
Yeah.
to say?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I think it happened in school. Um, it definitely happened in school because I came in kind of being like, maybe it's this, but I can commit to studying this. Like I am curious about all of the anthropological forces that theater inhabits that I didn't feel like the an acting curriculum was going to necessarily give me. Like I wanted a little bit more of the piecing together of the world. Um, and and yeah, coming from the kind of science background a little bit, um, I had a teacher my second year, Molly Maxner, who married that midwifery thing for me. I was like, "Oh, this okay, it's all making sense for me that like this I think this might be my track." And then I'm not sure that there was one singular moment because I'm of the belief that it is something that I still choose every day. Like, what they say about a relationship is like, you have to wake up and choose to love each other every single day.
Yeah.
Um, sometimes it does feel like, and yeah, and that there's I had a knowing also that I think I could have done a lot of things. And everyone was kind of like, if you could do anything else, do it. And I always hated that because I was like, but what if I want to do this more than the other things? Like I would like to follow the want. Um, but I think there's something that's really alive for me about the human species kind of we've been given this like gift and curse of the psyche. um and and that we're all in a pursuit of understanding what it means to be human. Um and I think theater always feels to me like it is the right, like we look to a lot of different things to see how far the human body or the human experience can take us, right? Like there's a reason I think we're all like so excited by the Olympics. We're like, "Oh my god,
Right.
like how far can they jump? Like what can
Yeah.
this body do?" And theater to me feels like the emotional exercise of that. Is like, yeah, what can this body do? Like how far can we go? How much does it take to get us to hold each other, right? How much can we endure? And uh and it feels like the medium of art that is the most perfect storm to examine that and still be getting to hold like the inheritance of story over however long we have existed on this planet, um or other planets and spaces, maybe not ruling it out. um yeah, that to actually get to engage with the history of humanity in one moment that is recognizable to somebody is absolutely devastating to me and so exciting. Um, yeah, I'm not sure that that's like what I want to say necessarily, but that felt like, oh, this is why I have to do this.
Anne Bogart calls theater the gymnasium of the soul.
Yeah,
She had to describe to somebody what it is that City Company did, and she had all kinds of ensemble-y answers, but then eventually she got frustrated. She's like, it's like a gym for the soul. And it's like, okay,
yeah,
you sold it. Yep, that's it.
yeah. Oh, she's awesome.
Yeah, yes. Um, I only know the students who've been in your rooms,
Yeah,
but what I've heard consistently from them is that there's such a sense of care and play and rigor that is not disciplinarian rigor, but that a playful rigor, a sense that they can offer and do anything, and that you got them, that you got them covered. Um, when you walk into a rehearsal room, what are you trying to build,
Mm.
emotionally, socially, spiritually.
Yeah. Oh, that also just like means so much that that's what they're walking away with. Yeah, I mean, I think I want I really want to create a space where we all feel the responsibility of one another. Um, that like whatever it is that we're building or in en route to building cannot happen without every single person. And I think that's how I've made sense because I wrestled for a while with like what is this power dynamic that I'm inheriting by taking on the title of director? Um, because it's also not a job that's like lived as long as theater has. Um, and there's some twists and turns in that history that I don't know how I feel about. And how that power has been made to use and how I've watched it been used. Um, and so I was really investigating it and feel like, okay, I can't do my job without them. And I don't think that they can do theirs without mine. In some contexts, they totally can. But I was like, "Oh, yeah, we just need each other." Like this is it's a reciprocal feedback loop in a lot of ways. And so, uh, yeah, I think I want everybody to be really empowered by the responsibility that we each have to one another and to the text that we're serving. Like at the end of the day, we are all in service, whether you have your job over there, I have my job over here, and the designer has that job over there. Like we're all in service of this thing that is bigger than all of us. And that is a gift beyond measure, I think, even on a very small scale. Um, yeah, it's so inspiring, and when we can connect to that, I'm always in awe of it. I'm like, "Oh my god, like we arrived, like this thing exists that's outside of all of us and only exists because of all of us." Like that's so exciting. Um and yeah, so I think that I always start with like communication and grit are the two pillars of the room that I want to have really clear. Like I need to know what you need in order to help. I can't guess, and probably if I guess, I might be doing more harm than if I didn't. Um, and and I think, like, I was in drama school at a time as well where we were all really worried about one another and really in a very tense place through, we did through the pandemic, uh, through the first presidency of Trump, um, George Floyd, 2020, Black Lives Matter, like, we were all, um, in this kind of, culty incubator of drama school at a time when the world was really reassessing itself.
Is there going to be a theater when we get out of here?
Right,
What's it going to look like? Yeah,
right. What are we doing with our like, why are we in school for this right now?
yeah,
For so many reasons, right?
yeah.
Um, and and I think in the aftermath of that, um, there was also, like, a question of, like, how do we continue with this work, and is it important? And I think its importance felt actually, like, really large. Um, and then so I also work as an intimacy choreographer, and what I noticed, was that, we put all of these systems in place to try to better care for each other, and it sometimes created, at least in the younger folks that we were working with, um, a real hesitancy sometimes. Out of care and out of not wanting to do the wrong thing, risk was lost. Um, and and so that service to play and service to imagination is something that I've like been thinking a lot about and in pursuit of. That's where the grit comes in for me too, is that like we have to all show up for each other in order to care for each other in the play. Um, yeah, so that's there, and yeah, and I think that the it matters what we're doing. It does. Um, And so getting everybody on the same page about why we're there feels really crucial. But it's also like we have to have fun. Fun. Yeah,
It's a play. It's what it's called.
play. It's a play, and it can feel so heavy. And then I have to have that conversation with myself all the time. I'm like, oh my God, like this is so hard. And then I'm like, it's a play. It's just a play. It's just a play. So it's both all the time. But yeah, I think I like to make a fool out of myself in the rehearsal room so that other people are more encouraged to do the same, hopefully.
Yeah.
Because I think we can only get to what matters if we're meeting each other through imagination and through like the deepest connection that we can. And the way that I have found to do that so far is lots of play. Lots of play.
Are you Gen Z?
Adam, I don't know. I don't know because I'm a 2000 baby.
Okay.
So maybe?
Yes,
Yes?
you are. Yes.
So on paper, yes.
Okay. But you're an old soul. I can already tell.
I have a friend who every year on my birthday, he goes, just makes more sense. I don't know. I think there's a part of me that has always believed myself to be a much older woman.
You're a boomer, a silent generation. No, but I asked this because this is important because we've had I wanted, when I started this podcast, I wanted to have the full gamut of a directing career. Obviously, your early career, Gen Z, we've just established, possibly. But we also have boomers, we have Gen X, we have millennials on here because I think a lot of times we are responding to the training that we're getting, responding to a industry that is older than us, and we're in the position of changing it. And you're in this generation that's, I'm hoping, is going to redefine directing in the theater. It's more collaborative, it's more horizontal, it's more attuned to ethics. How are you approaching it different, or can you even name how you're approaching it different than what's come before?
Yeah, that's so interesting. I so agree that I think we are all responding to our training, and I do feel like it totally shaped me because throughout school, the rooms that I was assigned to as an observer, and most of my faculty were men, in a program where all of the student directors were women, femme, or non-binary. And so a lot of questions of like, how do you lead a room? How do you show up in a position of power and leadership were very informed by the gap, I think, between our origin points from an identity space. And yeah, so I think I saw a lot of rigor and vision from a directorial point of view that I learned so much from. And I want to be clear also that like the male mentors that I have absolutely changed my life. But I kind of kept coming against this like, I think you are serving the play, but that rigor is sometimes at the expense of the room. And so I was curious about how can this be truly an ensemble where everyone's idea is valued. And yes, at the end of the day, like I am probably the person that is making a more final decision, right? Of like, and that's just because my eyes are on the thing as a whole in a way that that they have to be inherently. Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, and I was really curious about trust, because coming out of like these really, really important, powerful questions of how do we care for each other, is like, yeah, I don't think I am interested in the rigor and the quality of the product without trust in the process.
Yeah, at the expense of.
At the expense of. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a long quest. It is still a pursuit that is constantly changing based on culture and environment and policy and all of these factors that are making our world where it is. And the examples of leadership that we have. But yeah, I personally just got really interested in what that that trust can look like. And I think then I also started to see this tipping of the scale of like, well, I also don't want the rigor and the quality to be at the expense of our like care and love and trust, right? If like that's awesome if that's happening in the room, but I as a director, I'm like, I don't want to leave the audience out. Like that's the only reason we're here is because there's an audience. I like that they need to be a part of that. And yeah, so have just been, I think, wrestling with those two and how do they get to be in process together. And I see, at least I think in a lot of directing peers as well, that conversation coming up over and over again. And yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I think it's all totally new and all totally the same at the same
It
point.
is. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking, because I'm wrestling with this as well. Like, my teachers were of a generation where like you had to hurt. You had
Mm,
to, there was, like there's a very well-known director and professor who was fired that, we worked with that came close to sexually assaulting a student to show them what needed to happen in a scene.
God.
And like my friends are knowing exactly who I'm talking about, that like, oh no, you need to climb on her chest and you need to touch her like this. It's like, and that was commonality. That like and that it's that, so that a lot of us are responding to our teachers, but then we're now at a point where we need to either adjust or move on to what's happening. And
Mhm.
I wrestle with that thing because every single generation always says that, oh, the theater's not as rigorous, it's not as good
Right.
since time began.
Right. Right.
And so I have to constantly kind of check myself of going, I am assessing this, I'm judging this based out of an opinion that is it still current, or
Mm,
is this an opinion, an aesthetic that is not also adapting and also still rigorous and still doing the best possible work that's possible.
yeah.
But also, do I need to redefine what best means? So
Right.
I'm
Right.
constantly having those conversations. And I love that, I can have those conversations with directors on this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's it. Yeah. What does best mean? And I think as taste has entered the equation, which felt like it wasn't a thing at school entirely, just because I didn't know enough to have it.
Yeah, yeah, well, yeah, legitimate.
You know, all of that feels like, "Oh, yeah, okay, you go over there and do that thing, and I'm
Yeah,
gonna go over here and do this thing."
yeah,
And I have so much respect for, how much work it takes to make the thing that you do. And I hope that that's reciprocated, and we're just gonna be um, just in pursuit of different questions, which I think is necessary for a larger theatrical ecosystem, artistic ecosystem. Um, yeah, yeah, but no, I think all we have, I don't know, that story, like, I'm like, "Thank God. Okay, we're on a
no,
different
yeah, yeah, yeah.
thing."
We're in a
Um,
different land finally, thankfully.
yeah, yeah.
Not to come directly off the heels of that question, but I started the board of directors because directing can be a really lonely profession.
Yeah.
As you say in your apartment, that you are by yourself in the place
Yeah,
again.
yes, with all imaginary friends,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. But that uh, the actors don't want to necessarily hang out with us all the time.
Mhm.
Maybe it's a little bit different here because there's the age is closer and they like you. They really really like you. Um, but normally in a professional setting, like the actors don't want to hang out with the director because the director told them no today. And the designers don't want to do that either. So then we just go home and we don't hang out with each other. We don't see each other's works. We don't go in each other's rooms. Um, and so it's a very isolating experience. But especially as a young woman in a field dominated by older men, how are you sustaining yourself? Not just talking financially, though you can talk about that if you want to, but just emotionally, spiritually, artistically. How are you sustaining yourself?
My gosh. Yeah. I love this question. I think we should talk about it more. Uh,
Good. That's why I wanted to start the podcast, not just for like what you've done, but why are you doing it and how are you continuing to do it?
no, completely. In what you were saying too about n- just more and more generations of directors are happening. I do think that I am noticing in my generation of peer directors a real, like, we have been told that it's lonely from the word go, and felt it very quickly, I think. Um, that and I honestly think that because some of my first experiences were with peers, I mean, there's a lot of joy and love that happens there, but it's almost exacerbated because I was like, "Oh, now I feel isolated from my friends just because we've decided to embark on a slightly different path." So felt it very deeply, very quickly, and then but I think at least the peer directors that I feel that I have, like, we are really, really tightly in communication. Um And I have a couple of spaces where that feels across generation as well. But though those relationships with other directors have been huge, especially uh, I think in navigating the industry, which feels like a totally different job on top of the like, wait, I want to stay engaged in craft and my artistic journey. And then there's like getting work and how the relationships work and that and they actually feel like so I've the woman I graduated the directing program with, she and I are really, really close, and we talk about that a lot, that, like, can we make them feel the same so that the business is artistic and the artistic is like, can we just try to bridge them a little bit more? Because it feels like right arm and left arm are in totally different camps. Um, yeah, but so I think having other directors, because our paths are all so wildly different, which can feel really disorienting, I think, in the first couple years, first decade of trying to make this happen because there's not a formula in the same way, and there's not for any artist, but like actors, there's a little bit more structure of like you get representation and or be involved in these different artistic circles, and then slowly but surely. Uh, yeah, so I think there's been a little bit like, oh, what's your timeline been like? What's your map that like is really useful to know, like, oh, that's a program I should probably check out. That's a fellowship that might be interesting. Um, but it can be, I don't know, I found it hard to use it as like a reference map and not a blueprint and not
Mhm.
making other people's um moments like milestones for myself as well. Like, that's awesome that you did that, and my path might be taking me in a totally other direction. Um, and so because our paths are also different, we're learning really different lessons at different times, and the sharing of that knowledge has been so fundamental for me, for sure. Um, and and I think also having spaces where, I mean, some of my most treasured community is in the theater world, are the actors and the designers that I work with. Um, and having some space to be investing in my understanding of worth and value as a human being separate from my art has is a woo, we're trying. But that pursuit has been very rewarding when I can really let myself be like, nope, you deserve to be here, even even regardless of what you're doing. Um, yeah, so I think investing in spaces. I became a ceramicist in yes, so having some artistic practices that
Another
are not
outlet.
commodifiable has
Yeah.
been really, really powerful for me. I mean, they are commodifiable in their own right, but not. I'm not
Yeah.
commodifying them for
Yeah.
my personal gain. Um, that's been, yeah, that's been really powerful. Yeah, but I don't know. It's it's challenging. It's hard. It's hard. But yeah, I think those relationships are so powerful and so sustaining um and just seeing everything that I can like across mediums. I'm, two shows a week tends to be my goal and my average. Um and yeah, I love like spending time in museums, just finding all of the things that I can that feel like, oh, that moves me and I want to know why more.
I
Yeah.
think people don't understand that enough, and that's one of the I love the school, I love the students here, but not being in a major city where you can go see things and there's a lot of culture around and a lot of change, like, people don't realize how important that is for the artist to fill the well with things that challenge them, that make them curious, that, you can steal from and steal from and steal from. Um, there was a I love yeah, when I was in New York, is yeah, I try to see as much as possible, and, yeah, you're gonna come across some shit, but, like, the sheer number of things that you're gonna see makes that shit a smaller number than, like, if I see something shit in Charlotte, that's my one show that I got to see, and it was a shit show. I'm waiting for that exhibition to come through in Raleigh, and I hope it's good.
Right. No, and I
Um,
think having so much to see also makes the shit even more interesting. Because
yeah,
'Cause I'm like, "Oh, okay, why didn't that work?" But if it's the one sample,
yeah,
I'm
right,
like, "Oh,
exactly.
why it didn't work." Like, and, the curiosity can wane very quickly.
Why didn't that work, but why did it get funding? What am I doing wrong? What do
Right.
I need to learn from this?
Yeah.
This
Totally that.
is talking about your how you identify yourself when you don't have that thing. This is the first year in 20 years that I've not directed a show, and I'm a little batty right now. I'm a little stir crazy. And yeah, it's insane to like, I've just moved here from overseas,
Yeah.
and um my company has shut down, and I had a podcast that shut down, and I'm not directing something, so then who am I? Who am I? And that's a question that is exciting and scary to think about it at this age. It's exciting and scary to think about it any time, but to go like, oh, okay, so I have an opportunity to reinvent myself. I have an opportunity to re-examine what I want to do, which is, this podcast is part of it, of going, yeah, I actually am only interested in working with directors and speaking with directors.
Yeah.
And I wanna know what makes them tick and what makes them get out of bed and what makes them say, "Yes, that's why I do theater." Um, so when you're watching other people's work, what is it about their work that makes you sit up and say, "Yes, that's why I do theater"?
It's always pushing the ceiling of, "I've never seen that before," or, "I've never felt that before." Um, which I think is a high order. Um,
Good luck.
because nobody's actually reinventing the wheel. And and so sometimes the thing that makes me feel that is something that I have seen 700, there's no barometer there necessarily, but I think it's the simplicity of true invention. Yeah, just in the kind of Olympian, like, how much can we endure thing. I'm really the most compelled by the moments where the play itself takes off beyond the people on, where it feels like, oh, we're in the presence of something else. Like something else has taken over and my cells start to actually shift. Like it's a little bizarre, but I think the moments in theater that I'm most excited about are when I almost feel like I'm having an anxiety attack. Because like my body is telling me that there's danger in the room, even if it's like, uh, I don't not actually danger. I
Yeah.
believe in safety practices and I don't ever feel that I'm truly in danger, but like that there's something beyond all of us that's in the room that feels really dangerous. Um, is so exciting to me, when it just grabs me and it's like, and I'm not letting it go. Because I think that, it was so simple, or looking back, it felt really easy to get that reaction out of me when I was like 6, 7, 8, and like in the
Yeah.
presence of stage for the first time. And it was so like jaw-droppingly, like I think my first Broadway show that I got to see, I was 3 years old, and my parents took me to Frog and
Spoiled.
Toad. No.
Spoiled.
Well, we lived in New York.
Yeah, easy
I
enough.
was born there, and so it was a sweet little moment. But I know, baby, and I was in one of those like high chairs, and I mean, I think like probably no one should be taking,
No. Well, I would hate those people.
but I the legend has it that I stayed in the chair the whole time, and I did like not a sound, like didn't get up at intermission. I was just completely wrapped by what was going on.
Yeah.
And I think that's still, now I feel like craft has developed. My eye has gotten a lot stronger. From when I was 3, I would hope
We would hope so. We would hope so.
But yeah, I think it's a similar. Yeah, there's a couple. I think when I'm seeing professional theater, like that's what it is, and I work with students a lot. And I think when I'm seeing uh, theater of my peers too, it's like, is something happening? Is something being changed in these people? Um, but the like artistic prowess and then just like really great performances feel like um, sometimes a little bit more separate, I think, than I want them to be.
Can you think of a show? I asked this everybody, but this is a perfect segue into it. Can you think of a show that changed your habits, either as a person or as a director? This comes from one of my students that asked me this and floored me. So like every single time I ask this question, they're like, "Oh yeah, what a great question this is."
Yeah, that changed your habits. Yeah. Before being in a training program, I can think of a lot of shows that I like really loved and probably changed something in me, but I didn't know why. I was just kind of like, when I look back, the memory is kind of a wash. Um, but I wasn't seeing a lot of plays, and so seeing the curious incident of a dog in the nighttime, I think it was maybe like 14 or 15, and I still really have visceral memory of moments of the show. Um, that I know there's a lot of moments where I'm like, oh, I know that did something to me that showed up later. Um, but right the summer after I graduated, I saw Rob Ike's adaptation of the Oresteia. And I had been spending like, I think 2 years with Greek adaptations of theater at that point. So I was very entrenched in that world. Um, and that the first act of that show particularly, but the whole thing really, really shifted in something in me that like, um, the next time I was in a rehearsal room, I was like, all right, we're trying a bunch of this shit.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of it ended up being the play. So we did move some things around a bit, um, but I'm very drawn to historical epics, and I think a lot of the work that I have done or been attracted to in picking shows has been these kind of big stories that span 50 to 100 years, where the ensemble is, putting on like 7 different hats of different characters, um, and so there was something in the atmosphere of that adaptation that I think really pushed my understanding of epic theater happening in actually a much simpler container than needing all of the hat changing, and the form of that I think is so enthralling still. But I think the question of like, how big can we be with the least amount of work possible is like a very compelling ask of a process. And I think that question came into my purview after seeing that show.
Who's exciting you right now? Who are directors that you're excited and like I'll take the pilgrimage to go see them? Ultimately, who should I invite onto the podcast is the question I'm asking.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, my New York brain of like people that I just am so like about is definitely, I mean, I love David Cromer's work. Everything I see of him is just I'm a huge Lila Neugebauer fan. Danya Taylor, Lila Neugebauer. And yeah, and her story is really like the company in emerging life to then like big Broadway trailblazer of new work is like so thrilling. Jack Serio, a lot of the stuff that he's doing and the way that he is, it's interesting. I think there's not a ton of like companies that are being formed in my generation. I'm not seeing a lot of people come out of school and like, and I really thought that was going to be me, and I'm like not doing it also. Like, I think I have.
What do you think that is? Like, I was one of my questions I wanted to ask you. I mean, ask you at dinner next week. Is have you ever wanted a company, and why do you think that? This generation, quote unquote generation, is not forming companies, because my generation just form a company every other day.
Yeah. I was so gung ho. I was like, I want to do Steppenwolf. Like, let's fucking do that, you guys. Like, and I think I was also looking at like UNCSA being one of the few top conservatories that didn't have a direct company come out of it, even if it dissolved afterwards. And I, we had a class our second year in the directing program where our teacher sat us down and was like, so what do you think? Like freelance or artistic direction? And I kind of got attached in my head to artistic direction as like my path, because once you choose it, that's what happens, right? Then it's like super simple. And then I was like, oh, no, we're not in control at all. And it is something that I'm really curious about, because the community involvement with season programming, like that relationship is so exciting to me. But I think especially I hear about a lot of companies being formed out of like, we want to, or at least there was a generation that were forming companies out of like, how do we want to change how acting works, like, or how theater works? Like, we have a new method, a new idea of how this should be pursued. And I really don't, I think that question is in a lot of people's minds in my generation, but I'm noticing, and the reason I mentioned Jack is like, I think there's an era right now of that's happening, but it's independently produced things. Like, it's not necessarily under the, at least from what I'm seeing, right? It's like we will, and all the productions that I'm in conversations about right now are independently produced productions that are happening off Broadway or off Broadway. And yeah, and so it's really interesting to me. There's a couple people that I know who have companies, but I think it's more of a response to like, I want to shift how the industry is working than how the craft is, in what I'm noticing. But yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting, because I, at least in my own life, like when I was in school, I was like, yeah, I think I want to give it a couple years. I want to understand, I want to have worked in literary and in casting and in development before I take that leap.
Yeah.
We've hit 2 out of the 3. But I think I was also like, well, I really don't want to do it alone. And I don't know that I've found like the the second hand part, the person that I want to go in on that with. And I had someone say to me, like, you don't need them. Like, just do it. Um, what are you looking for? What are you waiting for? And so I think, I don't know, but I knew that I wanted to be clear about why it was being founded. And I think there's a lot of fear that I have around it. Not, it can be about a lot of things, and clearly it's just a fear thing. But yeah, but I think there's also like, I don't know what it would be like, what the mission. um I think that contract with community, like a theater's mission, is really a valuable thing. I don't want it to be a throwaway. And yeah, and so I don't feel personally like I have found my, like, that's what I want to say. That's what I want to do with this. But it is interesting. I think that a lot of energy is being put. Uh, I feel like a lot of the conversations I'm in are not centered around, like, well, we want to be the next, X, Y, or Z, or we want to change the nature of how this is working. And I wonder, I'm sure a lot of it is post-pandemic industry too, is that there's a lot of questions that on every scale people are asking about, like, how do we sustain this financially? And um yeah, but there are definitely a couple that I really admire that are working and doing their thing. But yeah, it's interesting. It does not feel like the the default energy right now.
Well, let's put some good energy into the universe and speak to dream scenario for yourself. What does it look like? What are you doing? Like, everything is going well, and you're telling the universe, make this path for me. What does it look like? What are you doing?
Love that. I mean, yeah, we're in a moment where it feels really far away.
I know, that's why we need some hope. We need some dreams.
Yeah, I was telling my cast, because my therapist and I have named my critical thoughts of myself, the mean girl in my head. Um, Her name is Becky,
Yeah,
and
of course.
I
Yeah.
told my cast about Becky, and now everybody talks about their own thoughts.
It's their Becky.
as
Yeah.
So I'm like, how'd that run go? And they're like, oh God, Becky was really loud tonight. And Becky's been pretty loud for me recently too. But which has been another interesting, wow, not even answering your question, but just an interesting moment of, like, what is directing? I feel not good at it right now. What is it? Like, that definition kind of continues to change, which is why I love the craft and the career. But yeah. Um yeah, I think I wrote down, you said that being at this school is challenging because it is so sequestered. And I think that's part of the rigor and excitement of it, is that we get to be so focused. Um, but I think it also meant that my, like, expectation and reality of what entering the industry was based in an idea that was pretty far away, because we weren't in a space, in a city where it felt like, oh yeah, and that's okay. I'm learning this as I'm watching. Um, so I had to learn and observe outside. And in the first kind of big wave of, like, wow, this is not what I had imagined, um, I wrote down something and put it up on my wall that still feels really true. Like, I want to be in rooms with people that I love who challenge me, working on plays that I love that challenge me. Because the most rewarding processes I've been a part of in my relationship with plays, um, has been on works that I'm, like, so excited by, but I actually have no idea what's going on. Like, what is this? Like, really actively having to put the puzzle together. And I think that remains true. Like, if that is active, I am so happy. um yeah, but and then you mentioned finances. But I think there's also a career of like, I do feel, for myself and the people around me, like I am in pursuit of excellence. I want to be in the pursuit of excellence. And I think that, I have a peer who is really, like, I think of her as like, oh my God, you're a true fucking artist. Like you just have these impulses and generate these ideas. And that's just like not how my brain works. And it's something that I work on too. Cause I like, and this show, The May, is really challenging it, where I don't have a ton of abandon in my practice. I like things that even though they get really messy in the containers that they're in containers.
Yeah.
Like I like the and which I think deserves to be challenged. But it does lend itself to commercial theater. I love commercial theater for all of its crazy. And yeah, so I would love to be developing new plays that are getting homes regionally and off Broadway, and I feel like I have a couple musicals in me. I want to do that.
You will, yeah.
Come home in that way for sure. And yeah, and there's a couple canons of the theatrical literature that I am dying to walk down those paths, just out of sheer like, let me be in the room with these ancestors. Like I think LaBelle's taught me so much that I was not expecting, just because of how brilliantly crafted that play is. And I think that's one of the, and it's so interesting how new work and being steeped in the canon are in relationship with, and it only makes me a better new plays director, I think. But yeah, I'm like, oh my God, okay, like Ibsen, like you and I, let's go, like
Yeah.
get in the ring, like O'Neill, like yeah, there are just some Churchill, like I would, oh God, yeah, there's some stuff I would love to dive into.
Acadia, break a leg with tech. You're going to tech this week, is that right? Yeah.
Yes, 2 days down.
And I look forward to seeing the show next week. And thank you very much for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Adam. It's an honor and a blessing, and it's been lovely.
If this episode gave you any insight, inspiration, or even just made you smile, please subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts for more conversations like this. And if you're looking for guidance with a creative challenge or want to advance a dream of your own, we'd love to help. Visit boardofdirectors.world. The Board of Directors is a global constellation of theater directors dedicated to building community, sharing knowledge, and transforming the role of the director in the 21st century. We convene and curate a fellowship that fosters mentorship, artistic inquiry, and collective care, transcending borders and institutions and traditions. Until then, take care of yourself and take care of each other.